everybody, my name is Mr. Francy and welcome back to Mr. Francy Reads. Today we are doing a last type video. That's right. Today I am doing not only my last completed series on my SAS list video, but I'm also doing my last pre-December type videos. So this is it. This is kind of wrapping up all the kind of new standard whatever stuff, and then we're going to go directly from here into either Christmas themed or favorites and non-favorites of the year, goal setting, bookshelf tour, all that type December stuff that we all love. But today we need to finish off my completed SAS list series. I have 3 series that I'm going to talk to you about in a little more depth, so if the video is a little longer than normal, I do apologize, but I mean, I just have so much to say about them. But I also have one series that I'm just going to talk about quite quickly with you all. So let's jump right in and talk about that very first series. Alright, so I'm going to put a book up on the screen because I realized I've actually unhauled this book and I don't have it on my bookshelf anymore to even hold up for you for a moment. So let's put up this book. It is called Murder is Binding by Lorna Barrett. This is book number 1 in the Booktown Mystery series, and I did enjoy this book. I gave it 5 stars. I then read book number 2, let's put that up. That is called Bookmarked for Death. I didn't enjoy that one as much. Now, the thing is, I originally planned to continue on with this series in 2023 and place it on my SAS list there, and I originally did, but I have since removed this series. There are so many books in this series, and I don't love it as much as all the other books that are on my SAS list for 2023, so I've DNF'd the series through no fault of Lorna Barrett at all. I think the series is absolutely fine. It's just not grabbing my attention as much as the others. So I read 2 books, plan to continue on, but it's now a DNF, but not Lorna Barrett's fault. Alright, now let's move on to the books I really want to discuss in more depth and detail with you all. Oh my goodness. I have a lot of books here and you can see them. That's how high the pile is. You can see the top of the pile here. Okay, the first series I'm going to talk to you all about today is this series. This series. Yes, the Poppy McAllister mystery series. I needed a moment. I always get confused between the name of this series and the Haley Powell Food and Cocktail mystery series. They're very different series. They definitely stand alone because they are very different. But I always get confused with the name, so I apologize. It is called the see, I went to do it there. It is called the Poppy McAllister mystery series, and I'm completely up to date, and what a wild ride it has been for me with this series. Okay, so book number 1 is Class Reunions Are Murder. I gave this book 3 stars and read it in January. Book number 2 is Midnight Snacks Are Murder. I gave this book 4 stars and read it in April. Book number 3 is Restaurant Weeks Are Murder, and I gave this book 5 stars, and I read this book in August. Book number 4 is Theatre Nights Are Murder. I gave this book 4 or 4.5 stars, and I read this in November. Book number 5 is Wine Tastings Are Murder. I gave this book either 4 or 4.5 stars, and also read that in November, and I read the last 2 in November too. Beauty Expos Are Murder. It's either a 4 or a 4.5. And then Antique Auctions Are Murder, which I also gave either a 4 or a 4.5. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put the books up on the screen because they're just a whole lot easier to deal with. Okay, let's start off by putting the first book up on the screen, Class Reunions Are Murder. Okay, this series needs to be discussed in a little more detail than usual because it has been quite the journey for me with this series. Pros and cons. But book number 1 was the book that almost ensured that I would not read this series, and I feel so happy that I continued on. So, the setup for this series is that we're following a woman by the name of Poppy McAllister, the titular for the series character, and Poppy is going to a high school reunion, and while she is really happy to see all of her friends, she's also nervous because some of her enemies are going to be there, the Mean Girl clan. And when she arrives, one of the Mean Girls eventually ends up dying. Poppy becomes the number one suspect because she was close to the body at the time of the murder. So Poppy and her Aunt Ginny, who she lives with, and her Aunt Ginny's best friends, who are known as the Biddies, come together to try and solve this murder. Now, I had massive issues with book number 1. And I'm a very transparent booktuber. What you see is what you get. If I don't like something, you're going to know. I'm not going to sit here and say, this was amazing, if I didn't think it was. But at the same time, I'm not going to say it's a horrible book. I'm just going to say, in my opinion, it was a horrible book. And it was. Our titular character, Poppy McAllister, is plus-sized. And in this first book, that fact is brought up many times, and it, to me, came across as being brought up many times in a way that put Poppy McAllister down for being plus-sized. And I just took great umbrage with it. If there is a character in a book, whether they be the protagonist or a supporting character or just even a background character who is plus-sized, and something that's not so nice happens maybe once or twice in a book, it's fine. But things would come up many times to do with Poppy's weight, and it really got to me. And that's why there was a massive time jump between me reading books 1 and 2, because of just how much that got to me. Also, what I found interesting was that the book was very long for a cozy. So this particular book is 400 pages long, and cozies, generally speaking, around about, 300 pages maximum. So at a maximum, it was 100 pages longer. But I came to find out that, honestly, it was just the beginning, because they continue to get longer as you do go along. So yeah, that really let me down. And I was just saying, I don't think I'm going to continue on. But then I was having a discussion with someone who has read a lot more cozies than me, and they said to me, just because you don't like book 1, give book number 2 a go, because it's the first book in a series. The author is just, starting out. They may hit their stride after book 2. Well, I'm glad I took that advice on board, because the series got better and better as time went on. So, I do need to warn you about that with book 1. Alright, let's quickly go through this, because I don't want to spend too long on it. Let's put book number 2 up on the screen. Here it is, Midnight Snacks of Murder by Libby Klein. So what I began to realize from this stage, book 2 onwards, is not only that the series was getting better, but one of the reasons why each book is long is because there are 2 mysteries in every book. There is a mini mystery that occurs in like the first quarter of the book, and then there's the major mystery that happens for the rest of the book. And the mini mystery in this particular book is that there is like an intruder, someone who breaks into homes, not to steal jewellery or TV or money, but to steal snacks. Which, of course, it's not a good thing, but for a fictional world, I just found it hilarious because it's so different. And when we got the reveal of who it was just even better. But anyway, so I really did appreciate that. The fat shaming lessened, which I really appreciated, and I began to become invested in the characters and in situations that were going on. So I'm so glad. You know who you are. Thank you so much for the recommendation to keep going, because it got so much better, and it does prove the point. You may not like book 1 in a series, give book 2 a go. Even if you say to yourself you'll DNF the moment you don't like book 2. Give book 2 a go. Let's race through the rest of these. Restaurant Weeks Are Murder is book number 3. This one is about a cooking competition, like a restaurant cooking competition. I really had fun with this one. It got the highest rating from me, 5 stars. I love competitions in books. I love cooking in books. This one was definitely for me. The cozy side, the mystery side, it was all fantastic. I highly recommend that one. The rest of the books I read them last month, so I remember them incredibly well. Theatre Nights Are Murder. In this one, the biddies end up auditioning for the Senior Centre Play of the Year, which is going to be Mamma Mia. One of the thespian actors is killed that everyone loves, so they need to investigate what's going on. I love any type of acting or being on the stage or anything like that represented in books, and getting the perspective of someone who is on stage or watching something on stage that's carrying out like rehearsals or whatever. It was absolutely for me, and I loved it. Wine Tastings Are Murder. What I remember most about this one is the cliffhanger that left us on, because the cliffhanger was a massive cliffhanger about the number one thing that I was invested in this series. So I highly recommend, if you're going to read book 4, if you're going to read book 5, purchase books 5 and 6 together, because when you get to the end of book 5, you're going to want to pick up book 6 right away. Trust me. I didn't really like the cozy side that much, but I did love the mystery side, and I started to come around to the Detective Amber, by this point. Book number 6, Beauty Exposer Murder. I thought this one was okay. Set at a beauty expo, Poppy is selling some baked goods for this gluten-free diet that she's been placed on. Don't get me started. It's fine. We're letting it go. However, by around this point in the series, a love interest that Poppy has keeps saying to her, I don't see why you don't see how beautiful you are, because you are incredibly beautiful to me. So things have gone from Poppy being put down because of her weight into, in the second half of the series, Poppy being told, no, you are beautiful. I don't see why you don't see it. So I did really appreciate that. And then the final book, or the most recent book that is out, is this one, which is Antique Auctions Are Murder. I didn't enjoy that one as much because I actually don't like antiquing. I don't like auctions, so the cozy side didn't really work that well for me, but I thought the mystery was intriguing. Now on to the next series, and I don't have all of the books in this series, which is a sad story because I love the series and the look of the books in the series so much that I wish I did. We'll talk about that. I said I was going to talk about it in a recent video and I didn't, but we will be talking about it today, I promise you. And that is the Del Toro Quest mystery series by Emily Rodda. Okay, so before I do forget, I'm going to talk about the editions. I'm just going to quickly say that I found out when I got to the final book in this series that this isn't the only series of Del Toro Quest. So there's Del Toro Quest Series 1, Del Toro Quest Series 2, and Del Toro Quest Series 3. I have Del Toro Quest Series 2 and 3, which I think have like 4 and 5 books or something like that in their series on my SAS list for next year. So I will continue on because we follow the same characters and all of that. Okay. Now let's talk about the editions. Okay, so the editions of these books that I have, as you can see, they have a black cover with like a tan kind of border. These are what I referred to as the 10th anniversary edition. I love them for many reasons. I just think that the black background really allows whatever the antagonist or villain of their character is to shine, for the color of that villain to shine. So we got like in that one, you can see they really just pop, which I really appreciate. However, when I got to book 6, book 6, I found out that I couldn't get book 6. I looked everywhere for book 6. I even rung Scholastic, who were the original publishers of these books, to see if they had one, like, in the back room somewhere that I could buy. I didn't care how much it costed. I wanted the whole series because I don't have OCD, but I do with series. I need a full series, and I don't like when a series is broken up. It just doesn't work for me. So, and no, they couldn't help. They recommended me to someone else. They couldn't help. And I found out that it's out of print, so I can't get it anymore. And that just started a downward spiral for me. I ended up borrowing book 6 from my local library. Then I returned it. I reserved book 7 and 8, but then cancelled my reservation because by that point I was over it. I wanted the whole collection. And aside from what I've shown you with the cover and how it makes the villain really pop, the way the cover is, the spine really intrigues me. So, I'm going to show you the spine. So you can see here that we have the orange, it's a gem. I'll explain the premise in a minute. We have the orange gem for book 1. Then in book 2, we have the orange and red. And then in book 3, what is that? It's like a yellow. We have orange, red, and yellow. Book 4, we have orange, red, yellow, blue, or purple, blue. Then in book 5, we have orange, red, yellow, green. I love this. It makes so much sense considering what the premise of the series is about, and I was really enjoying looking at the spines and how a gem would be added for every book, and now I can't get them. So I'm probably going to be unhauling this series, unfortunately, at the end of the year, and there is a 1-book omnibus that has all of the books in series 1 just placed into 1 book. I'm probably just going to purchase that, and it's a whole lot cheaper than purchasing these 2, but I do like the look of the omnibus. Alright, let's discuss it because that took far too long. The premise of this series is that we follow a boy by the name of Leaf, who is a prince. Prince Leaf is going through his coronation in book number 1. Part of that coronation includes being handed a ceremonial belt that he needs to wear. This ceremonial belt has 7 gemstones attached to it. Every gemstone was forged by a different magical community that surrounds his and his father's kingdom, known as Dell, and all of the gemstones are now missing. So, and with the gemstones being missing now, it has unleashed an evil known as the evil Shadow Lord. The only way to defeat the Shadow Lord is to re-find all 7 gems, attach them to the belt, and then you have a chance to defeat the Shadow Lord. Okay, so now that I've said that, in every single book, we go on a quest to find find a gemstone, and there's always some sort of a roadblock on the way. Now, my least favorite trope of all time is the traveling/questing trope where you don't know where you're going and you don't know how you're going to get there. It really is. I really don't like that trope. But Emily Rodda made it work for 2 reasons. 1, each book is incredibly short. They're all novellas, so I love that. On audiobook, if you're listening at 1 times speed, every single book is 3 hours or less, so they're really short. But also, the roadblock to getting every gem is so extremely creative, and I really enjoy it. It's not like your typical fantasy where the roadblock is going to be a battle every single time, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with battles, but they've kind of been done to death at this stage for me because I've read so many fantasies. The roadblock is different every single time, and I really appreciate that. Anyway, let's go through when I read them and what I rated them. So, the majority of them received 4 stars. Book 1, The Forest of Silence, I gave 4 stars. Book 2, The Lake of Tears. I read this one actually in October of 2020. So I'd already read this one prior to beginning my SAS list of it this year. Book 2, I read in May of 2022, 4 stars. Book 3, I read in July of 2022, gave it 4 stars. Book 4, I read in September of 2022, and I gave this book 5 stars. Ooh, I really like this one. Nice. Book 5, I read in, also in September of 2022, and I gave this book 4 stars. And now, book 6, The Maze of the Beast, I gave this book 4 stars, read it in October. And then, book 7, The Valley of the Lost, I gave this book 4 stars. And book 8, that's interesting, I think I gave this one actually 4.5 stars. And book 8, Return to Dell, I gave 4 stars. Now, I want to check why I gave one of them 5 stars, because I thought I gave them all 4. Give me 1 moment. Okay, so it was this book that I gave 5 stars to, The Shifting Sands, book number 4, and the reason for that was because I loved the beginning. Usually the reason I take off a star for every book is because I'm not really a fan of the beginning. It just, I don't know, it's just seems like a catch-up, and then we're just traveling. And it's fine, because I know the ending is going to be amazing, so that's why I keep reading. But in this one, I actually love the beginning because the trio, so we have Leaf who's going out to find the gemstones. He is going out with his servant from the castle, whose name is Barder, and they end up meeting a girl when they first begin their journey in book 1 named Jasmine. And so the three of them go and try to find each gem in every book. And in this one at the beginning, the three of them enter into a competition that could win them a lot of money if they win, which is going to help them on their travels, like to get tools and other items that they may need to survive the questing that they're doing, not only survive against enemies, but also like to get food and shelter and whatever else. So I enjoy competitions in books anyway, as I've already alluded to with the Poppy McAllister series with the Restaurant Weeks Murder one. That's why that one got 5 stars from me. But yeah, all in all, I highly, highly, highly recommend this series. If you want a short, quick read that is a middle grade series that will show anyone and everyone, no matter what age you are, that middle grade books, even if they're short, can be fantastic, then I highly recommend them. And as I say, series 2 and 3 are already on my SAS list for next year. As much as I thought I was done and was in the frame of mind that I would be done when I was 3/4 of the way through the final book in this series, I'm actually excited that I get to keep going with this series next year. So to the final series that I'm going to be discussing, not only in this video, but for this series of completed books on my SAS list. Alright, now, there are many reasons why this became the final series that I wanted to show you, but the predominant reason why I saved it to last was because there was a lot of umming and ahhing about the latest 2 books and when they were going to be released, and I was really, really hoping that at least the next book would have been released by now so that I could have read that one as well and added it to this pile to discuss with you, but it still hasn't been. We'll discuss that as we go along. Let's talk about what the series is first. And it is the Secrets and Scrabbles series by Josh Lanyon. Okay, let's go through when I read each book that's out so far, what I rated them, and then I'll discuss the delay of future books and what's going on there and the premise and all that kind of stuff. Trust me, this is an amazing series. Okay, so we're going to go through each book title and rating and when I read it first. So, book 1 is Murder at Pirates Cove. I read this in April of 2022 and I gave it 3 stars. More about that in a moment. Book 2, Secret at Skull House. I read this in May of 2022. I gave this 5 stars. Book 3 has a gorgeous cover. Mystery at the Masquerade. I read this in June of 2022 and I gave this 5 stars. Book 4, Scandal at the Salty Dog. I read in July and gave it 4 stars. And book 5, Body at Buccaneers Bay. I read this in September of 2022 and I gave this book 3 stars. Alright, so before I go into like the one book nonsense and discuss all that, I just want to give an update on what is going on. So, book number 6, yes, book number 6 and book number 7 are on the way. So Josh Lanyon decided to write book number 6 and book number 7 together at the same time, which is a choice. If anyone out there has ever seen Tatiana from RuPaul's Drag Race, there are choices. That was a choice. Yes, well, I mean, that was a choice. I don't think I've ever heard, and I'm not putting Josh Lanyon down, it's just like another great saying, Judge Marilyn Milliard from the People's Court would say, you know, that sounds great. How did that work out for you? I mean, yeah. So I appreciate what Josh Lanyon was doing, but it's caused a whole lot of havoc. So Josh Lanyon ended up releasing book number 6 in physical book form, and very shortly after it was recalled to be re-edited. Since then, there have been updates on Josh Lanyon's website saying when it will come out. So originally it said coming out in October. Then at the end of October it said coming out in November. Then halfway through November it said coming out in November-ish. And I'm guessing if I were to go to Josh Lanyon's website right now, it would say something like coming out in December. So that's why I've been holding off all this time, because I was originally hoping the next book, which is called, by the way, we'll put it up on the screen, Lament at Loon Landing. I was hoping this would have come out by now, and I love the cover so much. I love Mystery at the Masquerade's cover, and I love this cover too so much. So yeah, I'm waiting around for that one, and then I can get on to book number 6, which I've forgotten what it's called, but it's got like a matchbox on the cover. But yeah, okay, now let's talk about the series. Okay, I did not necessarily love book number 1, but what I came to work out very early on, like after reading book 2, is that book number 1 is just the setup, and I just didn't enjoy how long the setup took. But the basic premise of this series is that we're following a guy by the name of Ellery Page, who has moved to Pirates Cove to run a bookstore that was bequeathed to him by his grandmother, who has since passed away. And so, yeah, he has left a very bad breakup, and now he's running this bookstore. Interesting fact, I have not come across any other cozy yet. I'm sure they exist. I'm just saying, me personally, I have not come across another cozy yet that has a male main character. And second, I am yet to come across a cozy mystery series that has a main male character who is gay. So this incredibly intrigued me. The fact that there is a gay cozy mystery series, it made me really happy. So Ellery has had a bad breakup. He has left his boyfriend, moved to Pirates Cove to run his bookstore that was bequeathed to him by his grandmother, and while he is there, a murder occurs, and so in steps, Officer Carson. I told you guys already in other videos, I'm not good with names, but I knew it was something like that. Detective Jack Carson, to try and solve the case. From the moment Ellery meets Jack Carson, he becomes infatuated with him, quite frankly. And by the end of the book, book 1, we can tell that Ellery has a great interest in Jack Carson and would like to date him, but only time will tell. He doesn't even know if Jack Carson is gay, so we'll see how things turn out. So from there on, so my issue with book 1, actually, just quickly so you know why I gave it 3 stars, because I never gave any of the other books in this series that low a rating. But the reason why I did with book 1 was because it took way too long for the mystery to happen. And it probably had something also to do with when I read it. So I read this book in March, and I had read, a small number of cozies up to that point. I've read so many cozies this year, but by that stage, I'd read a small amount of cozies. And one thing that I had come to enjoy about any cozy, and they all have this in common, is the mystery side. Because it was book number 1 and there was a whole lot of setup for book number 1, it took forever for the mystery to begin, that by the time it did begin, I just was no longer in the mood for the mystery. I kind of felt over it because the book had been lagging to that point. But I did love following Ellery. I loved not only having gay representation in cozies, but I loved Ellery as a character outside of the fact that he is gay, and therefore we have that gay representation. And yeah, so I decided I would keep going, and I wasn't disappointed from there. So yeah, that's kind of the deal with that one. And then, as we move along, this is not a spoiler because it's a cozy mystery and not a romance. So, we find out that Jack Carson is, well, I don't really know what he is. If he is gay or bi or what, I don't know. But we find out that it is possible that Ellery and Jack can end up together, and Jack starts falling for Ellery because Ellery ends up putting himself in horrible situations being the amateur sleuth of the series, and Jack just gets worried for Ellery's life and realizes that that worry comes from a place of love. So they do end up falling in love, and they end up moving in together, and their romance is a beautiful love story that is in the background of every single book that we have for this entire series, which I do appreciate. I also love Ellery's bookstore. I love the woman he works with. I do not remember her name, but they, not only do they run a bookstore, but they also run a cozy mystery group, which I appreciate. And the reason the series is called Secrets and Scrabble, not every series title that I've read makes sense, but this one does. Every Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that, one day a week, Ellery goes to a Scrabble club group. And that is run by this elderly man who, to me, I always thought was gay, and I keep being surprised to find out that he's not, just because of the way, and I don't want to stereotype, I mean, I'm gay myself, so, you know, I'm not trying to stereotype or anything like that, but the way that he acts, he comes across like he's a gay character, but he's not. He's just a very effeminate, straight male, and I appreciate that. But anyway, so That's why we get the Scrabble side of it, because once a week he goes to this Scrabble group that's run by the overly effeminate straight guy. Again, not trying to offend. I'm just saying that that's the situation, and that's great. Yeah, everyone's different. The secrets side comes from the fact that with every mystery, Ellery learns another secret that is attached to Pirate's Cove. Alright, I absolutely love this series. I highly recommend it for so many reasons. The fact that we follow a male protagonist is one, because 95% of cozies are following a female protagonist. The fact that that male protagonist just so happens to be gay, which I am yet to come across. I'm sure there are others, but I'm yet to come across personally. Another gay cozy mystery series is another. But also the setting in Pirate's Cove, the relationship between Ellery and Jack Carson. This is just a fantastic series. Despite the delays of books 6 and 7, it is a fantastic series. So I highly recommend this series, Secrets and Scrabbles by Josh Lanyon. And now for everyone's favourite game that we like to call These are the books, the final list of series that I have completed from my SAS list. And I'm going to try and put them down and hope they don't fall, because I do love them all, so please don't fall. Okay, good. But in the meantime, that is where I am going to leave it. Not only for this completed SAS list series, so thank you very, very much for all the support that I've received from this series. Thank you. It was a lot of fun for me, and I hope to do it again next year around this time. But also, that's where I'm going to leave it for my regular videos. We're now going to jump into, from now on, the next video you see. It's either going to be Christmas themed, favourites, non-favourites, goal setting, goals check-ins, bookshelf tour, all that kind of fun end of year stuff. So, in the meantime, I'm going to let you all go with peace, blessings, and so much love. Please do, especially during this holiday season, be kind and love one another and spread your sparkling positive energy all throughout the world. We all know the world can do with a lot more positivity. If you can do 3 positive things throughout the course of every day, it will make a world of difference. So, and if you have already been doing that, thank you so much for your contribution. I really do appreciate it. Alright, as I always say, happy reading! See you for the December, fun very soon. Bye!